let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaming and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today, no guest. It's just me and James flying solo. We're actually going to talk about what life has been like being in lockdown and being in the throes of a current global pandemic.
I mean, it's a very pertinent subject, none the least because of it affecting everyone, but how it affects gains. I mean, some of us have found it easier to gain weight. The lockdown has been an excuse for some people to finally kick off their gaining journey. But it's also not been easy for everyone because a lot of people lost their jobs and some people were made homeless. Some people even lost their lives. And that's really thrown the world into a tailspin, whether or not we're prepared to admit it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, as well as a little bit of maybe some of what we used to do prior to the pandemic, and maybe what we're going to be doing differently even after COVID is, quote-unquote, gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, to kind of kick things off, Tim, what was your situation like during lockdown? And we're talking job, living situation, social life. What were you doing?
I can remember, this would have been over 2 years ago, right? At this point, like back in, because I remember hearing about it in January of maybe it was 2019. And I was like, I was hearing these reports of this virus that was happening overseas. And like, it was this, related to SARS, and it was a respiratory thing. And it was really starting to like cut a swath through, because it originated, or at least the first cases that were publicly mentioned were in China, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so spreading from there, not blaming, making that very clear, not blaming, but that was where like the first public cases were beginning to happen. And being a Westerner, you hear sometimes about these things that happen like West Nile, Ebola, and you think, well, that's really terrible, but it's not happening on my continent. And Americans are kind of preoccupied with themselves anyway. So I wasn't thinking much about it. And, then by March of the following year, 2020, that was when everyone started going like, oh, fuck, this is real. This is not a drill. This is happening. And I've been in healthcare for the last 9 years. And when it very first happened, I was working home visits. I was visiting people in their houses. And I'll admit it, I wasn't taking it too seriously in the beginning because there was a lot of misinformation that was being spread at that time. And I kind of looked at it like maybe this is another West Nile or avian flu or, some other variant of that. And it's only going to be effective to certain members of the population. And I'm like, I've been vaccinated against everything under the sun. So I wasn't worried. And then it began to filter down through the healthcare system where people are like, no, this is serious. You need to be wearing all this protective gear when you go into people's homes or when you go into a patient's room. Like, we are taking this dead seriously. So then I started reading up about it on the CDC and I was like, okay, yeah, this is legit. I was living in the same house I'm in now with my boyfriend, Matt, and my roommate, Eric. And I did not have the issue of suddenly I couldn't go to work anymore, because as an essential worker, I worked through the whole thing. Like, I never had like a week or anything off due to exposure quarantine or like trying to rotate people off the staff. So, to prevent further spread, because some companies were doing that, but I worked through the whole thing.
For me, I was working as a operations officer, basically helping a company floor run, and that came to a grinding halt in early to mid-March. And it was quite interesting how fast it all turned around because, it was for a management consultancy that I used to work at, and obviously it's filled with wealthy white people who don't have a care in the world when it comes to these types of bits and pieces. So it was quite amazing to see, something like a global pandemic really shake them and force them to have to, for instance, put me on furlough, which was fantastic. I got to be paid to stay at home and not work. But of course I couldn't travel or do anything with that, except eat. And I did manage to put on 30 pounds, and that was lovely, gal. But when all you are is stuck at home, uh, it's kind of hard to celebrate, and it's kind of hard to really get into the vibe of what's happening, because you kind of want to go out and celebrate or live your life the way you normally would.
And you couldn't.
And living in London, it's been a terrifying place to live in that time, because London is by its own nature a fucking petri dish of culture, both human and petri dish level shit, like just stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go out onto streets and to hear no cars, see no people, was really quite uncomfortable. It felt like I was living in one of those zombie pandemic movies.
That's what a lot of people were comparing it to. They were like, this is like 28 days later. It's like there's nobody outside, there's nobody in the shops, everyone's hauled up in their homes. And I also, I don't know if funny is the right word for it. I guess it like just kind of shows what humanity does when they're in a panic situation. But like everybody within that first 2 weeks stayed home and watched Contagion over and over and over again. I thought that this is what we were in store for.
But then quickly after Contagion and that died down, everyone watched Tiger King.
Yes.
And changed tracks almost immediately.
Isn't it insane that I honestly feel that if it hadn't been for the perfect storm of events that surrounded that 2020, that the Tiger King probably would have not reached the popularity that it did. It probably just would have been one of those like off kilter documentary series that no one cared much about.
But also, how fantastic was it in the end? I mean, it had queer folk as the center of the story. It had polyamory, drugs, guns, illegal animals.
Are you sure that he's like the best representation?
The perfect representation. In fact, I don't think we could have any better representation, because who are our current queer leaders in modern media? RuPaul and Ellen DeGeneres. So we were living life how we were during lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
How did that differ to your life before the lockdown?
I mean, night and day. Before lockdown, I had an active social life. I was going out to the bars. I was going out to see films. I was going out to dinner. If I wanted to just get up and get out of the house, I did. And things were open. Of course, you had to still adhere to their hours of business, but anywhere you wanted to go, if it was open, you could go there. And then the minute lockdown happens, you're like, oh shit, I can't go see a movie right now. Like, and at first we were like, are the grocery stores going to stay open? Are the gas stations going to stay open? Like, how are we going to fuel our cars? How are we going to get food? And, they made the decision that essential businesses were going to stay open. But then it kind of became like an adventure to leave your house to go to the drugstore or to go to the grocery store. And that was really all you could do. There were even like in the county that I live in, there were restrictions on how many people you could have over at your house. At first they didn't want more than like 4 people in your house at the same time. And then gradually as time went on, I think the ban went to like no more than 10 people. And that one lasted for quite a while.
It's interesting. So like similarly for me, I was going out, I was seeing friends. I was working in an office full of people, and to be honest, I relatively enjoying what I was doing at that point and feeling accomplished. Feeling like the relationship that, I was, the place where we were at the time, like, we were starting holidays and really feeling like, oh, we'll go home to Australia this year, and we'll see what happens there. And there was just all this potential for stuff. And then, lockdown happened. And it really did change, like, how we did things. Because I realised as well, I live in the suburbs of London, and then I would go to work in central London. And I did that every single day. Now it's at a point where I'm so exhausted. I'm so exhausted. I can't go into an office 5 days a week anymore. I actually can't. I was doing that training for this new role that I'm in, and I became so awful to be around because I was so exhausted, so worn out from human contact that I needed so much more alone time in the home time that I had left in order to process what was going on. And I think I experienced this thing of saying, oh, initially, I can't deal with things as well as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that my bandwidth for human interaction had gone down, that my energy levels have gone down, that my fitness has gone down. And don't get me wrong, my fitness has gone down because I've been sat at home eating, haven't I? Butter aplenty. We all fucking know it. You've seen it on Instagram. But actually, I had to have this realization of going, oh, it's not that I'm capable of less. It turns out I was only ever capable of this much. I just obliged myself to do more because that's what everyone else was doing. Which has been an interesting thing to learn about myself.
I wish that I had had the opportunity to come to that revelation. Unfortunately, I had to get up every day and go to work. And, there are times when I really wish that I had the opportunity to work from home, if only to, be able to sit around and snack and actually put on some decent weight, because being on your feet all day long, I often undo most of the progress that I can make.
Yeah.
But it was really nice to know that I had that security too. And one thing that really fascinates me about the field that I'm in, healthcare, I did not expect so many people to up and abandon it when the pandemic happened, because we went from having a nurse surplus to a drastic nurse shortage.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people were like, oh my God, we don't have enough staff to cover the people that are coming to the hospital. We don't have enough staff in nursing homes anymore. Like agencies were popping up all over the place to try to fill those slots. Jobs were offering like $6,000 as a sign-on bonus. There's so many people so many companies that were just so desperate to get healthcare workers. I kind of figured that most nurses would be like, okay, this is happening. Let's put our big pants on, go to work. We'll deal with this. I never knew how many said, that's it, I'm done. Peace out. I'm not doing this anymore. And even those who were like on the cusp of retiring, they were like, yeah, we're retiring early. We're getting the hell out of here.
Well, I think it's indicative that people saw this tidal wave of thing coming towards them and probably understood on some level, like, we're not going to get support through this. It's expected that a portion, a representable portion of deaths from COVID will be medical staff, because they're the ones dealing with it. And it's probably a lot of people who look at that and go, I'm not dying for this job.
And see, maybe it's to my own detriment, but like, I have not been like overly, I mean, I've been cautious, but I haven't been like worried about potentially getting it, like, maybe I just keep thinking about like Clara Barton and Florence Nightingale, and I'm like, what would they do? And, it's like, and I believe they both died of diseases. So probably not the best role models, but
probably not the best role model style.
Probably not. But I keep thinking about like, they put their personal comforts and lives and other things on the line to help other people. And maybe it was the school I went to that very much drilled that into my head.
But you're also in a position where you can do that.
Yeah.
For me, I never worried about getting it and dying. I worried about killing my friend.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to spread it either. I should clarify too that I was worried about potentially spreading it, but I was like, well, as long as I'm cautious, I mean, there's only so much I can do, Well, so then what are you most looking forward to when the lockdown ends?
I am most looking forward to seeing how society shifts. And maybe that's like a stupid macro answer, I don't know. But, like, I'm so looking forward to seeing how society has to shift itself. Because, look, do I enjoy wearing a mask 8 hours a day? No. But do I enjoy not having someone with their manky breath breathing directly in my face? Absolutely. Do I enjoy, having to wait for another train because the other one is full to the extent that I don't want to join on? No, I don't like having to wait. But if I'm on the train and someone sits far too close to me, do I enjoy being able to give them evils and say, move? And have them go, oh, okay, you're a bit sensitive about space, but I'll move. No, I love that. Mm-hmm. Don't fucking touch me. Don't sit near me. You don't belong in my space. I'm a queen. Get out of it. I want my seat. So, So
in short, it helped all the introverts feel a little less persecuted because now there's a legit reason to tell people to get away from you.
And that's another thing. People think I'm an extrovert because I can talk to people or I enjoy talking to people. Go. Introversion and extroversion has more to do with where you get your energy from, and I find people fucking exhausting. And living in the centre of London is tough on a girl. Like, I need to be plugged into my music, listening to a podcast on my way to work, or I will probably snap someone's neck.
Probably because something else I discovered about myself during this pandemic is I'm a lot more extroverted than I thought. Like, I feel like I was very introverted when I was in my early 20s, but now I really don't get that same social anxiety, like I don't. Sure, if I don't know you, it might be difficult to strike up a conversation, but I'm not intimidated by that conversation. Like, I'm not intimidated by having to talk to a total stranger.
Right.
And I do kind of get my energy from other people sometimes. As much as I do love, I'm a Cancer and I love my home, so I love my little shell that I get to crawl into and hide from, the stress of the world. But I like coming out of my shell too, and hobnobbing with other crabs and scorpions and rams and chickens and pigs.
Snip, snip.
Snip, snip.
How you doing, girl? Snip, snip. No, I get that. I mean, I feel like ambiverts and ambiversion is a concept that more people need to become comfortable with, because I think that's very much you and I. There are times when I just need a fucking loud, busy night out. Like, there's this party in London called Beef Mince, and it's just thick men that go. I want to be at a Beef Mince that's so busy, I am constantly, like, shirtless, and, like, no matter where I move, I am, like, sliding up against a different man, front and back. I want that room packed!
You should try going to Market Days in Chicago, because I did, and it was just like that.
Market Days in Chicago, coming for you. But, like, I have days where I need that. I want it. I want to be in and amongst it. But then there are days where it's like, I want to look at a road that I'm walking along, and I want to be the only person on it. To have to see someone in the far distance walking the other direction towards me, I want to look at them and go, ugh, you're in my space. You're in my universe. Get out of it. Ugh. Like, and I think finding a comfort in your ambiversion, finding a validity in balancing your alone time and your social time. I'm working a new job now where there is going to be an expectation of being in the office, but I want to be able to negotiate that and say, look, I'm probably only going to want to come in to max 3 days a week. I don't want to be in 5 days. I don't think I can do 5 days. I don't think I can do with people 5 days in a row. I think I would go crazy. Also, I'm conscious of how I'm turning my head, because I feel like I'm showing a lot of somehow. Like, I have no ear on this side, but then I'm like, no, it's my face. I'm not... See, I have another ear. It's there.
Your face has eclipsed your ear.
Well, I mean, I think I pointed this out before. I've got this little, like, it flicks outward.
Mine does the same thing.
Mine never used to. It used to be flush against my face. It's because of the fat deposit behind my ear.
You got fat earlobes, girl.
I got fat earlobes.
You got fat earlobes. And earlobes are so fat.
I got fat earlobes, girl.
You need to get some liposuction on them earlobes.
Use it to make soap. You want my earlobe soap, bitch? You want to kiss my butt?
Did you ever see Fight Club?
No, but
they actually do that. They go to a center where they perform liposuctions. They steal, or I don't know if they steal it or they buy it, but they somehow obtain the fat that was sucked out of humans and turn it into a line of soap that they start selling to women. It's like we're selling their own fat asses back to them.
Oh, that's great. Oh my goodness. Ugh. So I confessed before that I have gained 30 pounds, courtesy of COVID lockdown, because as I said originally, I was furloughed, which means I was paid to sit at home and do nothing, and of course for me that meant eat, which was fabulous, darling. Loved it. But what about you? Because as you say, you didn't really stop.
No. Unfortunately, I did not have that opportunity, so my weight has stayed. I've been at a plateau for about almost a year at this point of 235, and it's not for lack of trying. I have tried. I really have. People, we've talked before about how certain members of the community are like, oh, well, you need to just eat more and get snacks and keep them around you and just keep it up. And I'm like, dude, do you have any idea how complicated my life gets sometimes between work and balancing family, friends, events, especially in warm months when people want to go out and do stuff. It's like, I don't have the kind of time that I want, to do the thing. but I'm still trying. I'm doing my best. I'm chugging along, but I feel like 235 is just where I'm going to land for a while, and I have to be okay with it.
Well, listeners, if anyone's interested in seeing Tim blow past 235, all you need to do is subscribe to our Patreon and ensure that she gets her dollars, because she will use them to get fucking fat.
That she will.
That's a thing. That's a thing. I think far too many people are willing to say, "Oh, you should eat more," and I'm like, I'm on a limited budget, doll. What are you going to do to ensure that I eat more?
Well, even though I have a good job and I do make really good money at this job at the moment, it's like a lot of what my day boils down to, especially a work day, is I think people don't really understand what nurses have to accomplish in a shift.
Given day.
So like if I'm in a long-term care facility where it's, old people that have been either abandoned by their families, let's be honest, or who just can't be looked after by their families anymore, I often will get up to 30 people that I'm responsible for ultimately. Like, and that's passing all of their medications to them throughout the shift. That is assessing each one of them to make sure that their vital signs are stable and that there's nothing going on with them. Some people that you might have in that assignment could be much more debilitated. They might require a more scrutinous level of care, and so that's also, there are days where I simply don't have the time to sit down and eat something, even though it's worked into the law. Here in the US, you are by law guaranteed a half hour to eat something. And I want to do that. But at the same time, I also think, okay, so if I take a half hour right now, when I come back, what am I going to have to do? And I start thinking about all the things that are going to stack up. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll do these couple of things first. And then at least well, now it's almost time to do something else. And then, okay, now it's almost time to do something else when I'm done with that. So like, yeah, there are days where I can go 8 to 12 hours without eating something just because of the workload that's placed at my feet.
I mean, let's put it simple. If you say, let's say you've got 30 people you're taking care of, if it takes 15 minutes total just to care for that person, you times that, that's, what is it? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. 32 people at 15 minutes a pop is 8 hours of work.
Yeah.
Right there. That is not including transit time. That is not including your lunch break. That is just 15 minutes of servicing this person with whatever they might fucking need. It's a hard basket.
Yeah.
And it can be very, very demanding.
And that's why, like, when I've gotten messages from people like that, I've talked about her, like, well, what are you doing right now? I'm working. Are you eating? No, I'm working. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think that you understand what nurses do. Like, we don't. There was this article that came out once. I remember I was reading. It was like the 7 stages of a nurse's hunger, because it's like it's a systemic problem in healthcare. The nurses, we are the foot soldiers, so we are the people who are in the trench, on the front line, directly in the line of fire, and we are often the first to be cut down.
It's one of those things where, again, you look at it and you go like, oh, well, what can we do to improve this? Girl, the system needs an overhaul. Perhaps something that would be very helpful in most industries where you have free people wandering in and out is putting out, hiring nurses whose specific role is to know languages.
Yeah.
If you have permanent nurses on staff, be like, right, you're going to learn Arabic, you're going to learn Mandarin, and you're going to learn Spanish.
Yes. I think it's a brilliant idea. I don't know why they can't offer us free language classes.
Just to fucking learn. And look, maybe you don't need to know everything, but even if you knew enough to get
teach us pertinent medical jargon in their languages so that we can, if nothing, we can say one word, like the word for medicine, the word for shot, the word for pain, the word for, so that we know what they're saying to us. And we can at least communicate if it's just single words. Because what often happens in these situations is, I think this is really childish, but this is the medical world's answer to it, is they come up with this picture board. And you basically take like a child's picture board that has very simple pictures of, telephone, toilet, food, water, and then you just have them point to it. I think that's really childish, but that is the medical world's answer to this problem.
I feel like as well, learning other languages, it should be not only encouraged, but, expected. Like, I did a TikTok, you know, about things like this. Like, what is something that is seen as classy as a white person, but trashy as a person of color? Like, language. Like, oh, you're an immigrant? Well, of course you've had to learn English because your parents only speak Mandarin and blah, 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 blah. But fucking William, his cunt kids, learning French at an early age, and people go, oh, are they brilliant? The little 4-year-old, she knows a little bit of French. It's like, fuck off, cunt. There are people who are trilingual at that age because they have to be. That's not impressive. Your
Look
little
at the Dutch.
is not impressive. Or things like, the word expat. Why is everyone an immigrant unless they're white? If they're white, they're an expat. Expatriate. No, you're not. You're an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do that. I'm a white Australian living in the UK. I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here. Or emigrated, I think is the term. But I'm an immigrant. I'm not an expat. I'm an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those things, I think, that try to really dehumanize people of colour. And
Yes.
it tries to keep us separate. Like, oh, no, we're not that. We're this.
Mm-hmm.
We're different. We're special. We're allowed. Because what?
Because there are people who still think that English is the most common language in the world. And I don't know why they think that. I really don't, but they do. And they expect everyone to be able to speak it.
I think it would be fantastic if we got to a point in our world population where we could say, what are the major languages? Let's say it's English, Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin, which I think is the case.
It could be. That could be very on the nose. I'm sure in terms of sheer people who speak it across the world, Spanish would probably be 1 or 2. And English is probably at the very bottom at like 4.
It's probably 4th.
Yeah.
I think it would be fantastic if it became universal. You have to learn to speak those languages. They became part of your studies. You had to learn how to speak it. You had to practice it. I think it would be phenomenal.
I don't know why they're not compulsory in grade schools over here. I don't know. I've never understood why it's not, because I think, and I was just thinking about this the other day, I think even though Latin is a dead language, I think it would really benefit people to learn Latin so that they could then understand how to decode other Romance languages. So maybe you don't speak French, but if you heard French spoken to you and you already had the base of Latin, you'd have a better understanding of how to break that down. And it might even be easier to learn French or Italian or Spanish after you had learned Latin. And I think they should also, I think Latin and Spanish are 2 things that all kids should start to learn.
I mean, in Australia, like, we're a part of Asia. We're called Australasia in that zone for a reason. We're directly underneath Southeast Asia and China. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. Like, I had the opportunity to learn Japanese in school, and I really enjoyed it. But then when I changed schools, they were like, oh no, we learn Italian here. I'm like, fucking why? Why Italian? That makes no sense. Like, teach us Mandarin, because most of us who are going to use this language are going to use it for international trade. And who are we going to do trade with? Idiots. Asia. Fuck's sake, just think. But people don't think, and people are stupid.
No, because it's like you've said before, it's a common, like, Caucasian parlance to think that it's better to teach them to only have them grow up speaking English so that they never feel like they're being ostracized, othered out. Because white people from Eastern Europe who immigrated over to the United States at whatever period and did not teach their children to speak Polish or Romanian or Hungarian, only allowed them to speak English in the home. They grow, because they wanted to assimilate. They didn't want to stand out. They didn't want to be targeted as like, oh, this is another group of others,
What do you think you've learned in lockdown that will improve your gaming journey once it eases?
I don't know, to be honest, because I don't know if I've learned anything specifically about my gains during this time period.
Well, like you say, like how your job operates and how you need to change how you approach things like your lunch break.
I definitely need to make sure that before I leave the house, I have done meal prep, because I am the worst at doing meal prep. Because I'll walk out the door knowing I'm about to face a 12-hour shift and I don't have any food with me. And then I'll stop at like a convenience store on the way into work, and all I pick up is like a Starbucks coffee and a Coca-Cola. And I'm like, I need to make sure that I stop doing that, because as much as we talk, people will talk about, well, overeating is unhealthy, undereating is unhealthy.
Mm.
You throw your body into a starvation situation in that situation. So it's like, I need to not do that either, because now I'm just creating this very complicated relationship with food that I shouldn't have.
Mm. Kind of like what I said before about, learning how to stand up for myself a bit more in a work context, but I feel like what I've learned about my own gains is I just need to facilitate more consistent opportunities. I need to know what I'm walking into for the week, so that means I meal prep for the week. I write out a menu. What am I going to have for dinner, for lunches, for breakfast? What do I have? I can't just keep ordering food randomly, because sure, it's fun to have a Greg's sausage roll, it's fun to have a McDonald's breakfast, but that shit costs money.
Yeah, that adds up.
And it adds up. I'm also not working a job where I earn as much anymore. I have to be so careful about what I spend my money on, especially when we're trying to save for a cruise. Like, it's... I want to be able to afford to do things, but I can't do that if I take liberties all the time. And liberties that don't benefit me. There's this almost romance behind a gainer that eats nothing but junk food. And I get it, it's hot, but fuck, who can afford it? Most of us can't.
Some can, and we watch them do it, but not all of us can, because that, like, we said, it adds up. And I don't know, I love some fast food and some junk food too, but it's not consistent. Not to mention, eating that way does lead to a lot of other problems digestively, if nothing else.
Mm. Do you think there are elements of the lockdown that you're going to miss when everything ends?
Yeah, something that I also learned that I forgot to mention from this lockdown that I do think ties into this question, and I won't miss it. I found out that all that time that I would all those times I would go out to the bars and drink and socialize, I don't miss it.
Yeah.
I don't miss it. I don't miss those people. Like that community, that bar culture that I was so wrapped up in, mostly out of boredom and habit. I was like, I don't like any of you motherfuckers. I don't want to see you people anymore. Like I'm going to go out later tonight to the leather bar, but that is honestly like the only place I want to go anymore. It's like, because I just don't care about any of you people. You were all toxic and I hated being around you and listening to your mindless chatter. And I realize I don't have to do it if I don't want to.
I realize as well, there are plenty of people in London that I know that I can be sociable with. And obviously, prior to the pandemic, you make an effort because you go out and meet with people. The thought of having to meet up with people again, I looked through my phone and I was like, oh, no, I don't want to waste my energy on you. I never enjoyed my energy being wasted on you. And if I know and can acknowledge I have so much less of it to give than what I thought I had to give, I want to be so particular about who I give it to. So I don't go out as much, and I'm so much pickier about the people who I'm sociable with. And it's no shit or shade to anyone, but it's self-love to mind my own energy and to choose where it goes to. And there's also a point in saying that to people. I really want you to know that I've had to consider the people that I really want to reconnect with on the other side of lockdown, and I'm so glad that you've agreed to meet up with me because you're someone who I was really looking forward to seeing again. And that's its own level of connection. That's its own relationship builder right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. I still want to go out. I still want to have a good time. But it's like, there are bars that I know I'm never going to bother to go to because I'm like, I don't care for the people who go there.
Yeah.
I don't care for the vibe. I'm not going to play pretend. I'm tired. I don't have the time or the energy. I'm not going to pretend to care about you because you've never given me the time of day.
Yeah.
And let's be real. If you sat them down and you were like, oh, I'm going to try with you, they'd probably take the opportunity to go, no, thank you, because of X, Y, Z. And then it's going to be like, well, why did I bother in the first place? I should have just stuck to my guns and said, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Just own your thoughts and feelings. I said it before. I don't like most people. So if I talk to you or if I hang out with you, it's a fucking compliment. Okay, here's a more fun one.
Mm-hmm.
If you spent any time outside recently, you may have noticed that a number of men have gained weight around their midsections because of their time in lockdown. What are your thoughts on this, Timothy?
I love it.
Yeah.
Because, so like, I talked to you before about, and I think I've talked about it on a live or a Chonky Boys that like to chat or whatever, but it was like a month ago me and Matt, my boyfriend, because he plays on a rugby team, they were having a pool party at one of their houses. And I got to see, rugby guys are already stocky build anyway, but a lot of them put on a lot of weight. And, it was just great to see these guys that had been formerly, kind of like that buff fat, were now just fat. And I was like, oh, there's so much eye candy right now.
It is quite a delight, and I think, as much as there was that sort of period of dad bod being a thing, I really do hope that, the casual weight gain that has occurred for the majority of people during the lockdown becomes more commonplace. Like, there was a post that went around that was very important, when lockdowns were first easing, which was, everyone keep an eye out for this, but diet ads and weight loss ads are going to become very prevalent very, very quickly, because they know that people have gotten fat. If you feel comfortable and okay, take a step away from it. And I don't know what the majority of people are doing, and I'm sure that a lot of people have probably fallen to some form of pressure to make amendments. And people are going to do what they're going to do, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I do hope that people have then taken that opportunity to really reassess and maybe go, I'm comfortable as I am now, and there is no need to amend this situation. We're comfortable with this. Some people will naturally lose weight anyways by virtue of going back to work and being outside and doing some base exercises again. Some people won't. And I think it's my hope that people, having had the opportunity to be at home and be comfortable, can learn how to be more comfortable and take that comfort out of the home with them as well. It's just,
one thing that I have absolutely loved is the algorithm on Instagram lately. So, how when you're scrolling through people's stories, you sometimes get advertisements in between, and all of the advertisements have been for plus size clothing lines, for special stretchy pants, and the advertisements will even one of them even said something along the lines of, if you choose to lose weight or if you choose to get bigger, like this was like these stretchy pants that were like the ultimate work pants. And I was like, I love that the tagline said, like, if you choose to get bigger. And I think I also got an advertisement for like, if you're overweight, certain programs that like you can get discounts on. And it wasn't weight loss stuff. It was something like yoga or something like that. I'm like, I'll never take this up, but I love that I'm getting these advertisements now.
Like Step 1 underwear was always a fun one for me, because they make jokes about your thighs rubbing together and they talk about these lycra panels, but most of the models were thick.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean thick, I mean like thick. Like big boys. It was wonderful to see that. And it's an Australian company, so shout out to my people doing the right thing there.
And we've said it before. I love that. I don't know if it's a product of lockdown, or I don't know if it's a product of gainerism and body positivity bleeding out into the mainstream, but I'm fucking here for all the TikTok content. So many big boys on TikTok now.
Girl, ThiccTok is very much a hashtag that y'all should be checking out. And look, Tim and I are out there making content ourselves. Thicc Radio is on TikTok, for God's sakes. Putting out a little bit of content and pulling viewers, which is crazy in a sense, because how people find and gain a shit like that on TikTok that they're not finding it anywhere else, but people are finding it. We're racking up hundreds of views on videos. People are looking, people are tuning in, people want to see and hear more. I think there's also a hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
That more people feel comfortable in just putting themselves out there. And I think TikTok's a great example of that. TikTok is now the happening place where people, like, there is a white dude in Africa who's put on some amount of weight, and he's making TikToks joking about his belly. And it's this whole thing because he's in Kenya, and all these Kenyan people are commenting. They're like, girl, that's just culture here. We call that healthy, you'd have a belly. And it's like, yes, it is healthy. Have that belly. Eat more jollof rice. Have a good time. There are dudes all around the world who are showing off the bellies, bears who are showing off the bellies and having a great time. And it's like, it doesn't have to be about having arms and muscles to validate being a bear. You can just be a big, chubby dude and be a valid bear. It's all good and groovy and gravy in this household. I wanna ask you something, a listener question here. What is a gaining indulgence you've come across since the beginning of lockdown?
I'm not sure that I can say for legal reasons.
Oh, okay. So
Let's just say that I become rather enamored of a certain plant.
a certain plant, because you're a horticulturist by passion.
Yes, I'm a horticulturist.
Whore in horticulture.
I'm putting the
That's what she does.
Excuse me.
Certain
Yeah,
plant.
it's just a certain plant I've become rather fascinated with, and some things that that plant will do to you, and the appetite that will result. So that's
Absolutely.
been fun.
George, we love that. We love an appetite stimulant. You know, they are legal and over the counter in most states and territories, I believe. So, you know, we're just talking about a normal household plant. Everyone's got one. So, you know, there's
Yes.
nothing.
I'm very much into aloe vera at the moment.
Aloe. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage aloe vera. Or aloe vera. Oh, there's going to be a queen on season 3 of Drag Race UK, and her name is Ella Vidae.
Oh, that's clever. I like that.
There's also a drag queen whose name is Kitty Scott Claus, which is Kitty Scott Claus. Rawr. Like, I love a cute pun. I love a
I do. I have a friend that does drag, and her name is Maya Tack.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I've got a drag sister back home whose name is Anna Abortion. Or my drag sister whose name is Rachel. Rachel Discrimination. You know, proud black Aussie queen. Love her, stan her, love seeing her work. I love a good pun. For me, I think it's. Do I even need to say it? What have I?
What have you been?
What indulgence do I have from lockdown? It's butter.
Butter.
It's
Butter. I think we all knew that.
I think everyone knew that. We get any points that one? I don't fucking think so. Jesus. Oh no, it's truly butter. Well, you know how there's I can't believe it's not butter. Well, the other week I went out to Crookedon to pick up something from the supermarket, and I came across this sort of home brand version, and I just can't believe it's not. I can't believe it's not butter. And I can't believe it's not. I can't believe it's not butter. And I can't believe it's not butter are both in fact not butter. And I believe that they both in fact might actually be butter in a clever disguise. And that there's in fact a whole lot more butter around than we all thought there was.
And if any of you are wondering where that fabulous monologue comes from, please go watch The Vicar of Dibley. It was a British comedy that was made in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
the 90s.
nice.
And starring Dawn French, probably one of the funniest women on earth. So
French and Saunders, you know, because they're a comedy writing duo from here in the UK, and it makes sense. Thicc Radio Dibley with French, Ab Fab with Saunders. I mean, and both just phenomenal stuff, just phenomenally funny stuff. But no, I I like butter, and if anyone out there would like to sponsor my butter habits, message me, please. I beg you. Maybe continue gaily forward. What are your plans and goals now that lockdown is beginning to end?
well, you know, like I'm hoping that if it doesn't just become like a seasonal thing like the flu where we just have to get a shot for it every year, you know, if it does stick around, I just hope that we get to a point where, you know, totally safe to I guess it wouldn't be totally safe. I'm not articulating this well, but I want to be able to have meetups and group outings again.
Yeah.
Like I want to work on the whole fat glamp thing so that there's a camping trip that's been organized for gainers. You and I are going on the cruise.
Yeah.
Like there are things there's so much I want to do because I'm mentally and physically and emotionally all ready to create true community, to support one another, to address all the problems that we've been bringing up on this podcast from the beginning. And it's just, I had to play such a waiting game. And I feel like I'm still playing a bit of a waiting game because, you know, now there's variants that are coming out. People are getting scared again. You know, the county that I live in just went red, you know, so it's like, uh-oh, shit, you know, cases are going on the rise again. So I don't know. I'm just going to patiently wait, hope that everything turns out for the best, plan things. If they happen, that's amazing. If they don't happen, they will happen eventually, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just I want to go out there. And I think as well, like, being stuck in a house in London for 2 years nearly at this point, for fuck's sake, my life is disappearing in front of me. The time we have is so fucking short. I don't want to miss it just by sitting at home. I want to go on this cruise. I want to start London Grommr again, and I want to go to America and do this glamping trip, and I want to meet gainers who I'm friends with, and I want to have holidays, and I want to take photos and videos and put them out online and celebrate my growth and have a great fucking time, because one day I'm going to be dead. And in those last fucking moments, I want to reflect on the life that I have lived and be so grateful for the opportunities that I was handed and took. And I want to know that I did everything that I could. And even if there are things I never got to do, things that were on the roster, things that I never got around to doing, I want to be able to look down the barrel and say, if you gave me another couple of weeks, another couple of days, I could have done even more. I want to know that I took every opportunity.
Same here.
And maybe that's a bit morbid, but I think COVID pandemic, it's been a morbid time. We have to face the reality that people are dying. And many people have died.
Yes.
And eventually, we will all die. But what are we going to do with the time that we've got left? What are we taking from this lockdown? Are we grateful to still be here, kicking about, with the potential to do something? Maybe that's a nice place to leave off on. This podcast in and of itself, people listening, the very fact that you are able to listen to this is because Tim and I took the opportunities of COVID and of lockdown and connected and have made this happen.
I think that's a good place for it.
So maybe this is us. Maybe we've actually come to the end of today's episode, which, you know, it's been a good episode.
It has been.
I think it's been a pretty good episode. So, Tim, thank you, baby, as always, for your thoughts and presence. And, you know, you flashed Daddy's arms before. Could you do it again? Just one last time for me? Just do it one, like, yes, Daddy! Oh. I feel like you're just my little performing monkey, and I'm like, dance, monkey, but instead of dance, it's shows the arms, Daddy.
Oh, do we have time for a quick story that you might find funny that kind of is sort of along those lines?
We always have time for a story, baby. You go right ahead.
So the reason I laughed at the whole dance monkey thing is because it was Claw, which is the event that I go to every year, big leather convention. Well, one year they wanted me to be a go-go boy on their party bus, like to entertain the VIPs. So, you know, I'm in these knee-high boots and these booty shorts, and I'm trying to go dance in a moving bus, which is really difficult because there's nothing to hold on to. There were no poles down the middle of the bus, and there was like nothing to hold on to overhead. So I'm basically trying to dance while also moving along with the truck, which is not moving very steadily. And I keep falling on people, and like I'm having a hard time keeping myself up. And the woman who had tapped me to be the go-go boy, who was one of the event coordinators, it was her night out, you know, to have a break and have some fun. So she got fucking hammered. She got so drunk.
Right.
And she notices that I'm not exactly doing the best job. And she starts going, dance, puppy, dance, puppy.
Were you wearing a hood?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, I was not in a hood, but I did have my dog collar on, and I had painted the one spot over my eye, which is what I used to do. And, you know, so I was there as a pup go-go boy, but apparently I wasn't doing a very good job because I was trying to keep myself from getting killed. And, yeah, so that's why that whole, like, dance monkey comment made me laugh.
Oh, my goodness. Dance, puppy. Dance! There's like some seedy old man whipping out his dick like, I got a bone for you. Come and dance, puppy, dance.
Yeah, that did sort of happen. I mean, he didn't just whip it out on the bus, but he was very happy that I landed in his lap.
Ah, right. Well, I mean, you are hot. It's your own fault for being attractive. If you didn't want to be sexually assaulted, you shouldn't look so good. I mean, that's how these things work.
Didn't we have this conversation on the consent episode?
We did. Obviously, this is said in jest and in humor, people.
I know.
But, you know. That's a good story. I always like your stories. I always feel like I walk away wiser.
Because I've done a lot of dumb shit. I've done a lot of dumb shit.
I mean, I think like the best part is how many performance-related stories you have, and how all of them kind of center around you going, "Yeah, I didn't do a really good job at this."
Because I'm kind of crap at everything. I'm really good at being a nurse, and I'm really good at talking, but I'm not very good at anything else. So, well, I'm good at photography, so I'll give myself another win there. But I get pulled into doing a lot of performative stuff, despite the fact that I am not a performer.
It's because you look good. People just want to look at you. And therefore, people just kind of hope that like you can do things, you know.
And I can't. I mean, I can sort of half-ass my way through it, but
you know, you're like the Madison Beer of gainers, you know.
Yeah,
you're really good at looking pretty, but what else does she do? We don't really know. We don't ask.
I'm the Cheryl Hole of every performance.
There you go. And her taking a photo, snap photo, was her jumping into yet another death drop for me, RuPaul, to go, "Oh, incredible, let's book her for another season." More, give me more content. Oh, no, but, you know, it's, actually, that's a point I want to make. What is something I am so glad to have gleaned in lockdown? You.
Oh.
This entire relationship, I met you in lockdown. We connected during lockdown. We have become really good friends in lockdown because being in lockdown has provided us opportunity to be at home, to Skype and to Zoom call, to be on Instagram and go live together, to build this brand identity together. And it's just been incredible. And I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for you too.
So yeah, that's a nice place to leave this week's episode, I think.
I think so.
So, thank you everyone for tuning in. That's a wrap for now, here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a good review. If you like this episode, the podcast, or just us in general, share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. As always, you can find me on Grommr, Instagram, and TikTok at stannnum, and Twitter and YouTube at stannnumg.
You can find me on Grommr as Orpheus. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at ThiccMouse. And of course, you can find more of what we've talked about today on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Patreon at Thicc Radio. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.